Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome into the Morning Five on Wednesday, September 10th, 2014. I am Dave Biddle, and I'm joined by Alex Gleitman. Alex, a big question on a lot of Buckeye fans' minds right now seems to be whether Urban Meyer is the same coach who kicked the Buckeyes' rear end in the 2006 National Championship game. From being around him a little bit at press conferences, I don't get the feeling he's lost any of his fire. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree with you, Dave. I don't think he's lost his fire. I think people are overreacting a little bit. It's one loss. I mean, yeah, it was a big one. People didn't expect to lose this game, but you have to remember this is a young and inexperienced team, and the game against Navy, it wasn't really a great test because of how unique the service academies play football. So, I think people have to judge this staff and Urban Meyer based on how they get up after being knocked down. I think you could really judge how good a coach is by how well they notice what their inefficiencies were from that Virginia Tech game and what they can do better. That being said, at Florida, I think he had a much better staff than he does at Ohio State, and that's not bashing the Ohio State staff that he has now. I think they're great coaches. I think some of them definitely have developments. Everyone could always get better, but he had guys like Charlie Strong, who's now the head coach at Texas, and Dan Mullen, who's the head coach at Mississippi State, Steve Adazio, who's the head coach at Boston College. So, and I'm sure there's a few others that have moved on and up. So, those are just three head coaches right there that were on that Florida staff. So just an outstanding staff he had down at Florida that absolutely helped Urban Meyer, but I think he's the same coach.
Yeah, I think people have the wrong impression of Urban Meyer. Like he was this. Now he is. I don't want to make it seem like he's not a cutthroat guy and he's not intense. He absolutely is. But the idea that he was never going to lose a football game at Ohio State, I think people thought, oh, this guy that kicked our butt in the 2006 National Championship game, he's that coach every game. People forget, Alex, the next year at Florida, 2007. Florida lost 4 games. They went 9-4 the next year, including a loss to Michigan in the bowl game, in the Capital One Bowl, Lloyd Carr's final game. And that was still Urban Meyer at Florida. Tim Tebow winning the Heisman, and they lost 4 games that year. So
and then they won the national championship the next year.
Then they won the national championship the next year, exactly. So, yeah, Urban Meyer's not perfect. I think he's the same guy, but he's still a hell of a coach, and Ohio State's very fortunate to have him. Delving in deeper, does he need to get more involved? He's not perfect. Does he need to get more involved with the play calling offensively? I think he does. I think Tom Herman is not adjusting well enough. I like Tom Herman a lot. I think he game plans well, but I don't think he adjusts well in games. I also think that Urban Meyer needs to tell the defensive coaches who to play. This idea where, yeah, we need to play Raekwon McMillan more, then he gets 2 plays. If it takes you telling Luke Fickell you need to play him more, rotate him in the third series, that's what you need to do. So I've already answered the question on my opinion. I'll throw the question to you. Does Urban Meyer need to get more involved with the offense as far as play calling, and does he need to give edicts to the defensive coaches as far as who to play?
Yeah, I think it's tough on offense. We don't know exactly what goes on during the game. Is Urban, we do know that at times Urban Meyer has overrode Tom Herman before. He admitted so in the Michigan State game when he said he called that play on that infamous now 4th and 2 where Ohio State got stopped. So we know he's done it. I think they talk about the game plan. Urban's obviously more involved on offense versus defense in terms of game planning, and I think him and Herman are in constant communication during the game. I think last week, we just don't know what happened. If Urban thought that things could have been done and he knew what could have been done, I'm sure he would have stepped in. So I don't know if I can answer that question, should he be more involved in the offensive play calling. I think this offense has set records the last couple of years on offense. I think they've done a pretty good job overall. I don't think the offense was the problem in the loss against Clemson. They put up 35 points. In all honesty, I don't think really the offense was the problem against Michigan State. I think Herman made good adjustments in that game to get them back, and I think the defense just couldn't make stops when they needed them to the most. So I'm not really sure Urban Meyer needs to get involved with offense. Let's see how Tom Herman adjusts the rest of the year with knowing his offensive line is young and inexperienced and maybe not as talented as he thought. On the defensive side, I absolutely think Urban needs to come in and make a definitive statement. If he wants Raekwon McMillan playing, he needs to go tell Chris Ash and Luke Fickell, get Raekwon in the game. I don't know if he's doing this during the game, before the game, or whatnot, but if he wants certain guys in the game, he has to absolutely do that, and he can't have a deja vu situation with Mike Mitchell last year.
All seems to be pretty quiet on the recruiting front right now. That can change by the hour. Give us the latest, though. What do fans need to know about recruiting today?
Yeah, I think right now, as you said, things are a little bit quiet. They obviously had a big recruiting weekend this past weekend, and despite what fans want to think that the loss had a huge effect on the class of 2015. In fact, all the recruits I've spoken to and Bill's spoken to and Steve Wilfong's spoken to, everyone's had very glowing things to say about their experience at Ohio State. I personally wasn't someone who was expecting any commitments out of the 2015 class to come out of that game. I think it set them up nicely for some guys like Damian Harris and Matt Burrell. I think Josh Sweat and Jordan Whitehead and Jaquez Patrick and Jordan Scarlett were guys who had good visits. 3 of those guys might be a little bit of a long shot. Jordan Whitehead, I think, is a little bit more realistic at this point. But Ohio State right now is just, continuing to look at 2016 prospects, scouting them on the field, trying to finish their 2015 class strong, bringing some guys in on official visits in a couple weeks for the night game against Cincinnati. They'll then look for Illinois and another night game on November 1st, and then Michigan as the 3 big recruiting weekends the rest of the year. So they're just really trying to, bring in the last, 6, 7, maybe 8 members of their class of 2015 at this point and finish strong, as well as set themselves up for a nice 2016 class.
I want to let the listeners know what's going to be on the site today. The Dean of Ohio State football recruiting, Bill Kurlick, already has his In the Dean's Office posted where subscribers can ask him any question about recruiting or the team. A lot of questions in there already are about the current team, so it's not just about recruiting. So get in there and ask your questions to Bill Kurlick. We will have the daily boarding house posted around noon today. Then tonight after practice, Wednesday evening is always a big night during the season because we get Urban Meyer after practice each Wednesday. That'll be around 6:15. Practice ends maybe 6:30. We also get a handful of players. Ohio State has not released which players we're going to get tonight. But on the site tonight, look for a story plus video on what Urban Meyer has to say. And also look for stories, bullets, and videos on what the players have to say. We'll be posting content until about 11 p.m. Eastern, so look for wall-to-wall team coverage tonight on the site. If you're not a subscriber, try our 30-day free trial. A great time to try our 30-day free trial. Make sure Bucknuts is giving you everything you want in an Ohio State site, so try our 30-day free trial. Thank you very much to Alex Gleitman. Thank you very much to all the listeners out there. Take it away, best damn band in the land.